This is the part in the crypto cycle where everyone gets way too bearish, expecting a 2021 style top. In today's video, we'll be talking about why this is probably not the case and all of the overly aggressive shorts are likely going to get liquidated. We'll also be touching on the easiest possible trades if you'd like to go long or short based on some certain invalidations. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So a quick recap on Bitcoin to kick us off. We got a major pump from our lows set when everyone was panicking. We went ahead and had extreme bullishness in the market, going all the way up to the previous all-time highs and actually setting a brand new all-time high for Bitcoin. However, most people weren't celebrating because most people were holding altcoins. But that's a different story that we'll touch on towards the end of this video. So we blasted above the previous all-time high at 109.5K. Then what happened? So Bitcoin went ahead and set a new all-time high, but then we got a major correction below the previous all-time high. And then, as we can see here, if I zoom in, it started to act as very, very obvious resistance on the chart. This upper yellow line was the previous all-time high, and as you can see, every single time that we went ahead after this major correction and wicked above the level, we came back down and got rejected. This led us into a further rejection all the way down to around the low $103,000 level. Now you'll remember that in some of my earlier videos last week, I talked about the scenario of losing around $106,000 and what it meant for Bitcoin. Ultimately, what we discussed was the fact that if we were to lose this daily level, it was likely that we would go and tap into this region where we had a lot of liquidity. This is from $102,000 all the way up to around $104,000. And as you can see, we tapped into this level. Does this mean we will immediately reverse? No, not necessarily. I do think this is possible that we go ahead and chop around here. But as I said earlier in the video, we will be talking about the scenario where everyone is currently shorting the market and it is a dangerous game to play. So if we zoom out a little bit further, this is the scenario that everyone is talking about. The 2021 style top. And actually on the channel, I showed you this bar pattern and I overlaid it. Now, when you combine this pattern with what's happening today, it does look very similar and it can make you question, will we have the same kind of reaction that we had from back in 2021? At first, I thought that this was a possibility, but you'll remember that in my more previous videos, I did talk about the fact that perhaps we could go ahead and set a range for Bitcoin in the summer only to explode through towards Q3, Q4 of this year. We saw the same kind of range back in 2024 with a little bit of a bearish bias going downwards, and then we had a massive breakout to all-time highs. Is this going to happen once again? Only time will tell, and I will make sure to keep you updated. But one crucial concept that we need to understand as crypto traders is that if everyone thinks something will happen, it's highly likely that it won't happen. And we can see here that on X, a lot of people are posting about the 2021 scenario where Bitcoin goes ahead and has a massive dump. As you can see, chart after chart after chart discussing the same possibility. I can't lie, it does look very similar to what happened in 2021, but I just think that it would be too easy. My experience in the market tells me this, and I really think, especially with all of the liquidity building up to the upside here, that this would be way too easy for us to just go and crash into a bear market from here, knowing that so many people had the opportunity to really try and short the top. That being said though, if we're talking about the easiest possible trades, let me zoom out and show you exactly what I'm talking about. So in my videos, we discussed the idea that if we were to get confirmation below 109.5K, it would make an excellent short in the market. And honestly, if you entered that short holding all the way to where we currently are, you should likely take a little bit of profits because I don't think that this is the end of the cycle. Nonetheless, it was an excellent trade. And also that reminds me, if you want to trade the market based on what I discuss in my YouTube videos, you have the first link in my description down below, which brings you directly to Bluffin. You can get a 15% trading bonus cashback with my link and my link alone. We also have weeks where you can earn $100 for free for the first 100 users that sign up with my link. And you also get a $30,000 reward based on your trading volume on this exchange. So if you're a big trader, you can get a lot of rewards for trading on weeks. Those are the first two links in my description down below. Now back to the Bitcoin chart. So if we are to get acceptance below $102,000, in my honest opinion, it is a relatively risk-free short to enter and target around this region right below $98,000. This is a several $1,000 move, and you can likely make a lot of profits if you execute this properly. What we would want to see is a break below, and then this starts as a bearish retest for us to potentially go lower and then target this liquidity over here that we've been talking about on the channel at length. Now, you'll wonder, okay, why am I talking about this? Does this mean I think that Bitcoin will be going much, much lower if it ends up breaking below here? No, not necessarily. As I said, my base case here is that we will probably have a range in the summer, and until proven otherwise, I'm going to be sticking with this. That being said, this kind of base that's set in the summer and we go and range around doesn't mean that Bitcoin can't get another little pump to the upside and form another wick to potentially make a new all-time high. Now the question is, will that happen sooner than we think? Because if we take a look at the total crypto market cap, this is a pretty ugly chart. And I also have some more ugly charts to show you as well. We saw a bearish test here of this $1.25 trillion level. This was a very key level. As you can see on the weekly time frame, it did act as resistance in previous cycles and in this cycle. Now, if we zoom in a little bit closer, we can see that that's exactly what happened. We wicked to this level only to get rejected. And in fact, this cycle, we weren't even able to put in a new all-time high for total 2. This is the total crypto market cap excluding Bitcoin. As we can see, back in November of 2021 was when we actually set that all-time high. And this time around, we hardly broke above $1.6 trillion. Based on how this chart looks, it does tell me that we could see another retest here getting closer to the end of the year. Obviously, this would be absolutely brutal for altcoins. Now, this would only happen if Bitcoin did have another severe correction, and then we can go ahead, and here would be an excellent opportunity to accumulate spot altcoins. Yes, you heard me right. I'm talking about accumulating spot altcoins. Only if we go ahead and break in this pretty big zone, which is right below the $1 trillion mark. Now that would still erase around $150 billion from the altcoin market, but it would be an excellent opportunity nonetheless. We talked about this chart in one of my previous videos, but we can see that the stochastic RSI was very, very overbought. And the last time this happened was right around the peak of this cycle thus far. So it only made sense to expect a correction in total 2. And this is exactly what we're getting now. Now, I have to talk about the Bitcoin whale. He went from longing 10,000 Bitcoins to longing 100 Bitcoins. And now you can see that he is absolutely wrecked. His all-time P&L is now sitting at negative $17 million. At his peak, he was up around $96 million. This is a gambling problem. Make sure you're not following his trades because it will only get you wrecked. Now, if we take a look back at the Bitcoin chart, what I wanted to discuss is if we are to lose these key levels here, which is right around 100 to 102K, as I pointed out on the daily time frame, it is a relatively risk-free short. Now, if we get confirmation above 109.5K, which I know that some of you think is unimaginable at this point, but trust me, we've seen weirder things in the crypto market. At that point, a break back above this level and a hold of support becomes the easiest long of a lifetime. So now you have the easiest short and the easiest long. The reason I say this is because we've tested this level several times and it actually plays out similar to the 106.2K daily level. If you're not sure what I'm talking about, that was the level that we've been tracking on the channel for an extended period of time. And the reason this daily level was so important is because you can see that we wicked above it on multiple occasions. And as we were getting closer and closer to this level, I did warn you that we could probably get significant resistance before Bitcoin can actually break past it. We never got daily closes above this level. And you can see what happened. As soon as we got to that level, we got a massive wick down, only to fuel us higher and pump through that daily level. Then we had a few more daily closes and it was ultimately very bullish until Bitcoin set this high and then bled lower. Now, what you want to pay attention to is a very similar scenario in terms of your trading, but this is more for the weekly confirmation. So for those of you that like trading the market but holding a more longer term position, this is the exact scenario for you. If we start moving lower here and then we go ahead and tag this liquidity into the mid 90K region right below $98,000 as I discussed, you would have had a trigger for the short upon a break of this level. But then if we were to chop around in that range that I've been talking about, could be a scenario for the summer, and we break back above 109.5K. At that point, if it holds as support on the daily time frames and then the weekly confirmation, it would be the easiest long of a lifetime, targeting much higher prices for Bitcoin. So if you'd like to wait and be patient for your trades, this is exactly what I'm looking for. Of course, in my community, we also post some quicker trades where you can make profits on a daily basis. For example, today I identified a pretty risky Ethereum long given the illiquid weekend, but I thought I would give it a go because the price action looked pretty stable and I was expecting much higher prices. My free community went ahead and made $1,000 literally within 5 minutes of me posting the trade. Now, of course, I can't promise it happens like this all the time, but nonetheless, it was a very good trade for the community. So if you want those quicker trades, you have my community link, which is actually the third link in my description down below, completely free. All you need to do is sign up with my exchange and deposit to start trading in my community. But I digress. Now you know which trades are the highly likely trades to play out for the more medium to long term. So these are very excellent opportunities. Now, where would you set your stop losses? Because if Bitcoin goes ahead and breaks back above 109.5K to really shake people out and starts holding there as support, your stop loss would be set right below that previous all-time high around 108 to 108.5K. Now, the reverse is also true that I discussed, where if Bitcoin were to go and break this region, $102,000 to $104,000, and that starts acting as resistance, your stop would be right above into this region, give or take 103.5K, targeting all the way down to this breakdown region, which is actually below $98,000 for that short. So now you know some key scenarios that you could probably hold if this plays out on the charts. Now, of course, nothing is guaranteed, and this is not financial advice, but this is how I will be navigating this market. Again, if you want the quicker trades, you have my community, but ultimately, if you're just watching my videos and you don't care to join a signals group where myself and analysts are posting trade setups every single day, this is a pretty good scenario. Now, let's talk about USDT dominance, because we've been covering this for a while, and you can see we were breaking below this trend line, which every single time that USDT dominance breaks below this trend line, it is very positive, suggesting that we could be going much higher. However, you'll remember a few videos ago, I was talking about the fact that this wick could potentially get eaten up and we would close back above this key support level, which I'll remind you brings you all the way back to 2017. It's been holding very strong in an uptrend. Now, what does this mean? Well, if we are to start holding above this level and getting a bounce to the upside, ultimately, that is very bearish price action for Bitcoin, because you can use this metric to tell you when there's local tops and local bottoms in the market. When we pumped aggressively over here in 2024, we had the 49K bottom before going ahead and setting a new all-time high in January 2025. And then this set the high once we broke below this level and held the 4% level as support. Once we got another pump, this coincided with the 74.5K bottom. And of course, back in March of 2024, this was the 74K top. So I would really be paying attention to this metric to help you out with your trades and telling you the overall direction of where the market could be headed. Continue to hold this level as support. It's likely that we go ahead and test this trend line over here, which is over 5.5% in USDT dominance. So make sure you're aware of this, because holding this level is certainly not positive for the price action of Bitcoin. Now, at the beginning of the video, I talked about the 2021 scenario that everyone seems to think will be playing out. I mean, we covered it on the channel, but I told you, I don't think that it's going to play out exactly as everyone is talking about on X. The reason being, first of all, a lot of liquidity to the upside, but we got to zoom out and really take a look at the Bitcoin exchange liquidation map to give us the full picture. And that is looking even by now. If you've been following the channel, you know that this is one of my favorite charts to tell me where we could be going in the more medium term. A few weeks ago, it was abundantly clear that there was way more longs in the market, nearly 6 times more longs, because this metric was all the way up to around $25 billion, and there was only $4 billion of cumulative short liquidation leverage. This told me that while price could definitely still keep on moving up, we were going to get a correction because it was certainly not sustainable. Now we are starting to see this level out. Don't get me wrong, there are still longs in the market from all the way back to the low 90K levels. However, we are starting to see way more shorts in the market, over $12 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage. So keep your eyes on this, because as this starts to go up and up and up, and even more shorts enter the market, and then there are more shorts than longs in the market, that could tell you that in the coming weeks afterwards, we would likely get a massive pump for Bitcoin, liquidating most of these shorts. To reset this metric, it's highly likely that we can go ahead and liquidate all of the longs between $100K and $104,000, which is where we're currently at. So keep your eyes on this chart, because this tells me there's starting to be way more shorts in the market, and I really don't think it's that easy that everyone could just short the top and then boom, we go into a bear market. Do you really think the market makers would let that happen, especially with all of the stablecoin printing that's been going on? Now, just a couple more things to wrap up this video. We cannot neglect the fact that the capital flow model from Bitcoin to ETH to alts has completely failed this cycle. Now, some would say it's over completely, but as I've been saying on the channel, I think it's more due to monetary policy. People keep arguing about cycles and how we must follow the path like it's a law, but we've only ever had 3 cycles, and this is completely valid. As we can see here, if the capital flow model was actually legit for this cycle, Bitcoin to ETH to altcoins, Bitcoin dominance wouldn't be climbing the way that it is. And sorry to harp on about Bitcoin dominance as well. If some of you are in my community, you know I've been talking about this metric way too much, but this protects you in the crypto market. If I really zoom out here and we take a look at the monthly Bitcoin dominance chart, let me show you exactly what I mean. Look at this uptrend. Since all the way back in September 2022, Bitcoin dominance has been in an uptrend. What you want to look for a proper altcoin season, as I keep reminding you, is this, a massive plummet in Bitcoin dominance. Don't get me wrong, I think we will get to a point where Bitcoin dominance will plummet and we will see a proper altcoin season. Maybe not the altcoin season that everyone is expecting, but this will happen at some point. I just think it's more likely to happen towards the end of the year, near the end of this cycle. I will make sure to keep you updated on that. And that sums up today's video. A lot of people are calling for a 2021 style top, and they're telling you to immediately start shorting the market. But with how the liquidity is looking, I would find it very surprising for us to just go into a bear market from here. So despite my sensationalized thumbnails and titles, I'm here to tell you that I think that the Bitcoin top is likely not in, and we will probably find a true top near Q3, Q4 of this year after we form some kind of range. That being said, in the short term, look at the key levels that I discussed for a relatively risk-free short and a relatively risk-free long. Of course, it's not financial advice, just sharing with you how I'm operating in this market. If you enjoyed the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe, and I'll see you in tomorrow's video.